Hello and welcome to another edition of Elections for Mama Liberia, a 1-hour radio program that supports women's political participation and inclusion in elections. This program is produced by Democracy International Elections and Democracy Activity with funding from USAID. The Elections for Mama Liberia program will be aired every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. on Elbc and repeated on ECOWAS Radio at 5 p.m. On Wednesdays, on OKFM at 8 a.m. on Fridays, and on Prime FM every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. The program will also be repeated on 30 community radios across the country. Thank you for joining us. In today's edition of the program, we are discussing the impact of women leadership on Liberia and the changes women bring to any process. My guests today are, or will be, because one person has already given an excuse. So my guest today is Madam Maureen Sie, a media and communication expert. And today we'll be having a long conversation around the impact of women leadership on Liberia. I am your host, Siata Scott Johnson. Welcome back. Women have always and will continue to provide leadership in governance here in Mama Liberia. Let's look at two well-known names here in Liberia and around the region, if not the world. We will look at the contributions of Madam Ruth Sano Family Perry and Councillor Dr. Eve Chesinre. Let's look at Ruth Perry first, as we commonly call her. Ruth Sano Perry made history in August 1996 when she became the first woman unanimously elected at a meeting of West African heads of states to become the third chair of Liberia's ruling council. Madam Perry became head of the transitional government, thereby making her Africa's first woman to act as a head of state. Madam Perry was mandated to execute the daunting task of leading the country from a devastating 7 years of civil crisis to peace under a sub-regional plan of the Economic Community of West African State, ECOWAS. Madam Perry served in a non-partisan capacity. She was the leader of Liberia from September 1996 until August 1997. Let's also look at Councillor Dr. Eve Chesinre. Councillor Dr. Eve Chesinre is the establishment coordinator of the influential Liberian-based Angie Brooks International Center for Women's Empowerment, Leadership Development, International Peace and Security. As an advocate and champion of women's rights and gender equality, she is best known for initiating the Women's Situation Room for the Liberian elections in 2011. The Women's Situation Room enables peaceful democratic elections led by empowered women with youth through a structure of volunteers, a call center, a team of eminent women leaders, and a pool of experts across the country. Since then, the Women's Situation Room has been successfully replicated in 7 African countries. So, having women leadership alongside men is nothing new to Liberia. Again, welcome, and then welcome, Madam Sie, to this interesting conversation. We also want to say welcome to the program again. It is clear that the audience is tuned in to hear many of your contributions. And then thank you for supporting the elections and democracy activity of Democracy International. And just so you know, this program is made possible by the generous support of the American people through USAID. Welcome, Madam Sie.
Well, thank you, Siada. I am so happy to be here with you.
Okay.
It's always great for me to be on a platform with my mentees. And you are one of my pride and joy when I think about this life.
Mhm.
Um, I really love the tribute to Madame Perry
Okay.
because it just tells you that when we're in a crisis, who do we always turn to? We turn to women.
To the women.
And I think that's the essence of women's leadership. I think Liberian women have always led. We can credit Liberian women for ending the Civil War.
Mhm.
The peace that we enjoy today, and it's 20 years we're celebrating, is because of the tenacity of the Liberian women to stand up to the warlords and say, no more war. We are not going to take this war crisis anymore. We do not want, we want peace, no more war. Okay? Because of their tenacity, Liberia has had three democratic elections. Because had they not ended the war, we will still be at war and we wouldn't be enjoying this young democracy. This young democracy still has a lot of work to do, but we thank God for the peace that women actually stood up and said, this has to end. Okay.
So we just ran straight into the conversation. But you know, with everything you just said, and I like the fact that you said in time of crisis, we turn to the women. And then when we're moving forward, it's like, you know, the women go back in the kitchen
Yeah.
to cook
True.
and and to cook
True.
and prepare the
True.
food while the men are going forward. But then if something breaks down, then we call the women to come and fix. So how do you see women leadership and how has it benefited Liberia?
I think, like I said, we can credit the women for
Okay.
ending the war.
That's a benefit.
Yeah. When I
Mm-hmm.
think about the Ebola crisis, it was the women
Yeah.
who took leadership in their communities, in their families. They were the ones who were taking care of the children.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that um, our communities were safer. You know, we began to reduce the rate of infection
Okay.
and during Ebola, and it was the women. Like I said, women always, they're always called upon, and sometimes they don't even have to be called upon.
They just move
They
in.
just move in, they
Mm-hmm.
just jump in, and they're saying, we are going to take charge. And I think um, women need to take charge of this 2023 election.
Women need to take charge and we're just moving. So with all this energy and everything that we have in us as women, and as you said, nobody calls on us, we just move in to settle problem, we just moving with everything we have, with our emotions and everything. Why are we not getting to those positions, especially when it comes to elected position? What are the hindrances?
Let me give you a little background. Um, we know we have a history of discrimination against women.
Okay.
And whether it may have started decades ago, centuries ago, but it still lingers today. Whether you're in Liberia, you're in the United States of America, you're in Europe, you're in anywhere, there is still this perception that women are not good leaders or they cannot lead. But I think more and more we've begun to dispel that notion. So that perception, it cannot hold water anymore. So that's why women need to step up. That's why they need to speak up. And women need to support other women. Just think about it. I don't care what anybody can say about Madame Sirleaf and her legacy, but there will never be another first female president of Africa. There will never be another first female president of Liberia. And some of the women we see in leadership today, they are standing on Madame Sirleaf's shoulders. We wouldn't have a Vice President Joe Howard Taylor if it wasn't because of Madame Sirleaf. We wouldn't have Sarah Beslow Nyanti entering the race if it wasn't because of Madame Sirleaf's leadership. We wouldn't have the CPP selecting a female
Mm-hmm.
as its vice standard bearer if it wasn't because of Madame Sirleaf. And the thing is, we have, Yumbli Kanga is there in the Senate because of Madame Sirleaf. Boto Kana is there because of Madame Sirleaf. All of these women, they are standing on the shoulders of Madame Sirleaf. So you can say what you want to say about her. One of the things that I've heard at the end of Madame Sirleaf's tenure, people were saying, we'll never have women in their country again. We'll never have woman president again. We'll never have. And I would say to them, how many women did you have before Madame Sirleaf? How many elected women presidents did you have before Madame Sirleaf?
Mm-hmm.
We have one. And all of a sudden, there is no room for
For
women
another woman, yeah.
in this country. And who are you talking to? You're talking to the 51% women who make up the electorate?
Mm-hmm.
Are you really talking to that 51%? So anybody who's listening, any woman who's listening to my voice today, we are the majority
We
of the
are
voters
the
in this
majority.
country. And you can determine the next course of leadership in this country. And the one thing I would say about this 2020 election, people have choices. They have a lot of good people that are in the race. And so if we could just begin to focus on the issues and less about personalities, I think Liberians will begin to change. The whole idea that our politics is belly driven has really clouded this young democracy, because our young people, when you talk to them, all they think about who gave them, they're going from one political rally to the next because somebody giving them $5,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to or $5 or five cups of rice or t-shirt. And so what happens after that? I think what we need to do is, this young democracy, we need to start in layman terms in our local languages, educating our population about what it means to be a citizen, teaching them how to vote. Unfortunately, it took civics out of schools a long time ago. But we need to bring that back in a robust way. We
So,
need Liberian young people to take pride in this nation.
you talk about the issue of cultural and traditional discrimination. People still believe that women cannot lead. And let me play the devil's advocate. We were all here. We saw what, again, you cannot take it away from Madame Sirleaf. We saw what she did. So why are we still having this discussion around discrimination, around people not believing in women leadership? Because we mentioned the mass action that ended the Civil War. We can take pride. Every Liberian woman can knock her chest and say, we, the women of Liberia, ended the war. We also have we talk about Ruth Ferry. We talk about Swakoko. We have women that have led, even in our homes. We have our mothers. We have our sisters, even in the communities. We have women that we go to as community, advisor. We have our little small quiet problem. We run to them. So why are we still having this discussion around women not leading well, women staying in the back?
I think because we don't tell our story.
Okay.
That, to me, I think that's one of the problems. We tend to focus more on women's mistakes or women problems, and we still have that perception that women cannot lead. I mean, it's a false. We women need to change the narrative.
Okay.
And we need to also, because I don't want to be this person who always sounds about women, women, women. We also need to recruit men who can help us change that narrative.
Okay.
And I think there are few men, who have maybe taken on women as their vice standard bearer. We can look to some of them to say, they can be the allies. They can be the ones who are talking about women's leadership and why it's important,
Okay.
and explaining and showing that you truly believe in a woman. You can't just,
You're not just stacking her
you can't
along.
just put a woman there because of the numbers.
Yeah.
Because women,
Or you want to use her face.
yes, you can't use that. And I think we need to catch on to that.
Okay.
We need to catch on to the people who are using us because of our numbers and not necessarily because they believe in women's leadership. And we need to start speaking out against that.
I like the fact that you say we need to change the narrative and we need to work alongside men, and we need to be able to recognize that they are just, carrying us along with them. They don't
Yeah.
really believe that we can change the narrative.
Yeah,
but
there are some of
because,
them who do. There are some who truly believe. I know there are some
yeah.
really
So,
good he
what
for
are
she.
your thoughts? What are your thoughts on these elections in Liberia when it comes to, looking at the need for everyone to participate and be represented? I mean, everyone, as in both male and female, young and old, inclusion and everything.
I think,
People with disabilities and everything.
yeah, I think we I think one of the problems that I have or I see with this whole women's leadership thing is that or the elections in general
Yeah, your
is
thoughts
that
on the election.
we we have an electorate that is not fully literate
Okay.
because I don't
And I'm not cutting you off. You're talking about fully literate. I'm thinking, are we doing enough civic education?
No, we're not. I will give credit to Nemo. I think
Okay.
Eddie and his team, they do a good job.
So let's come back to your
Yeah.
thoughts.
I
let me
yeah,
let me just write that down to
I
remind you.
I think that, I like the fact that Central had a debate the other day with some candidates about transparency and accountability. I think Integrity Watch and Wongo Sol, they're doing a good job. But we need to start uh, educating people in our local communities. We need to start speaking to them in simple Liberian English on just how to vote. Because right now, people are not focusing on the issue. You have a minority of people running on Facebook, running on the airwaves, not focusing on the issues, but talking about personalities. We have to stop the attacks. And some of these attacks are also on women, you know, on the airwaves, on social media, in public gatherings. We've already seen some signs of violence. People have died during this process, because of violence, during the rallies, and people have been injured, and that shouldn't happen. If we were focusing on the issues, and I know we have of our young people, they're also their numbers are really high, but we need to educate them. The same way that the women took on ending the war,
I know. We need
and
to
the
take
same
on
way they
that.
took on to fight Ebola, they need to take on talking to
Talking to
our young people. Our grandmothers need to come out. Our daughters need to come out. Our mothers need to come out, and we need to start talking to the young people about what it means to have a peaceful election.
Okay.
So, because some of them did not grow up during the war.
They were nowhere
They were
around.
born after, so they don't know what happened to this country. They don't know what Liberia was before the war. Okay? So until we begin to educate them, until we begin to show them what it is, because simply because somebody is giving you a t-shirt and because they're giving you $5, you don't give them a job for 6 years or for 9 years, as in the case of the legend. You don't do that because you are the one in the driver's seat right now. I mean, and the
You
thing
are
that
the employer.
the thing I don't like about our voters is that they look to these politicians. My people, let the politicians look to you.
I know. I always say that.
Because you are in the driving seat. Drive our politics, drive the elections. Tell them, don't you should be asking them questions when they come to you. Give me your vote. What are you going to do for me? If I'm a young person in this country, just hanging on the streets, no job, nothing of the kind, why should I vote for you? Why? What are you going to do to change my life? And until our electorate start asking questions and looking for handouts, will never change.
So the program you're listening to is Elections for Mama Liberia, a 1-hour radio program that supports women participation and inclusion in elections. This program is produced by Democracy International, Elections and Democracy Activity with funding from USAID. So get ready to call us on 0880-514-096 so we can hear your view. And again, call us on 0880-514-096. We are taking a break to have our skit. When we return, we'll open the phone lines.
Election is everybody's business. Everybody needs to choose our leaders, and everybody needs a chance to lead. Liberians agree for elections to be fair. Our sisters and daughters must also be there. Everybody wants leaders who can bring peace and manage our nation. Let's think of women in the election and help make Mama Liberia better. Election is everybody's business. Let's include men and women. Let's think of women in the election and help make Mama Liberia better. Election is everybody's business. Let's include women. This message is made possible with funding from the American people through USAID. The content do not necessarily reflect the views of Democracy International, USAID, or the US government.
Fore omunyu sembi oje wala yabe nyime amadi oti be wake fofo mu parike sepade nyo sen wable wake wananyo ka kenanyo be amagawe omunanyo be mo gri jebupon be kebro nai be nyo sen wake de oje mabe oke gabe wabe puenji be wake fofo mu pajidu sepade mabe oke gabe wasenseji fofo mu padu na kumo do munna do ke jinmo be bonyo sembi oje dia debo popo omunyu be da bilabulake okeji mo mabe ojiri do ke be anu fuiso o nyama to chogu na ke omo mereka nyobeo yine wani po be wada USAID kemu okay po be wada Democracy International ke ndi USAID okay US gomla.
Remember, you can join us on the conversation by calling 0880-514-096. And we are discussing the impact of women leadership on Liberia and the progress women bring to any situation, any process. So again, we're talking about women leadership, looking at the hindrances, looking at the impact. I just want us to continue that conversation, but let's also look at with a particular focus on changes women bring to any progress. Anything that women, women are a part of, the changes we bring to that space.
When women get inside, we know it changes everything.
Okay.
Everything. And I think when you have more women in the legislature, they will push for gender equity. I know we've been struggling with this 30% in Liberia for a long time, but it was the advocacy of women that even the conversation continues till today. I think women need to push for.
So let's take this caller. Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Your name and where you call from?
Okay, I'm Dennis G. We are calling from the Peace Island.
Dennis, we are from Peace Island.
Not just Dennis, we are, but
Dennis G. We are okay. Sorry. Dennis G.
I listened to the conversation. It's very interesting. And I have these concern and recommendations.
Okay.
Firstly, let me deal with the recommendation. Women should avoid being selfish. Why do I mean?
We should avoid being selfish.
I will live on this. Why do I mean? Learn to give your friend woman lift instead of having interest in giving men lift.
Like seriously, Dennis, we're talking about giving lift here.
We are talking about how women can drive their friends into the leadership.
We're talking about women leadership, man, Dennis. Go straight to the thing.
Listen now, you say your studio guest said women, they are about 51% of the population, right?
Mm-hmm. So how does that
if women move to a leader to be elected, it means automatically we will have numerous of women who are vying for elected position because they are in the number. But women, you don't like one another. It is where I'm driving to.
Okay.
When women see a friend woman in the race, she prefers to vote for the
Dennis, we are discussing the impact women have made on Liberia leadership. We're not talking about giving lift. We're not talking about we have to like one another, but we have impacted Liberia to a particular level, and we want you to recognize that level. So let's talk about the impact. Let's forget about the giving lift and liking one another. Let's talk about the impact women have made on Liberia. We listed a lot of Liberian women that have contributed immensely, beginning with Ruth Sano Perry, coming to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, coming to Madam Swa Koko, coming to Joel Howard Taylor, coming to we talk about Yvette Chesson Ware. We talk about women that have stood up for this country, the women that can be on the airfield praying. I'm sure they still there right now praying for peaceful election. Ain't got nothing to do with somebody giving somebody leave maintain this. So let's talk about that here. Hello, Dennis. Dennis, go on. Oh, sorry, Dennis.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
I think we have to be careful how we listen to that negative
negative
perception,
narrative.
because I think sometimes more men say that women don't support each other. Women don't. They're always voting for men. It's sometimes the men infiltrate our community,
and they are the ones carrying that narrative.
Yes, I've heard in some communities. Think about the women chair of the party, the women chair of the political parties. When they start carrying women or supporting women, there are men who go in there. You know what they use? They use sex.
Mhm.
They use sex and money, and they go in there. They start loving to these women, and they start giving them money. And before you know it, she's not supporting her friend woman anymore.
Yeah.
But I think women, again, we need to change that narrative and challenge that perception.
And that's why we want to focus this conversation around
Because before you
the
go,
impact we've
I know.
made.
Think about Poto Kane. Who knew Poto Kane in this country?
Okay.
Plenty people didn't know her name. And she emerged
Even
as a
some of us who are
serious,
journalists didn't know her name.
she emerged as a serious candidate in Bapalo. Some of us didn't even think Bapalo were not even on our radar, right? But when we women heard that she had been discriminated against, she was already leading the election. And the last place, which was her stronghold, they tried to chakla it there, right?
It was women who went there.
Yeah, it was
So
women who risked their lives.
But even Madam Sirleaf even admitted in one of her speeches that the women of Liberia stood up for her. Women tied their lappers. We had the Lapper Revolution. Women stood up for her. So, women can support each other.
They don't look at the
we're not
negative.
supporting each other. We're not talking about that.
And we need to get men out of our bedrooms to influence our politics.
So again,
and our leadership.
Again, you can call us on 0880-514-096, and we are discussing the impact of women on Liberia leadership. And we have a question for the caller, but then sadly that he had to get off the lines, maybe because the discussion was not going the way he started the basis. But again, we encourage you to call, and we ask you to stick around the conversation on women leadership. 0880-514-096.
And I also
Maria, I was coming back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we, or what are we lacking as Liberians that we're not seeing women leadership? I mean, the impact of women leadership on this country, because the children can say you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that women have been doing things and women continue to do things and women have led this country successfully.
Because we don't tell our stories enough. Nobody's
so
telling
why are we not telling our stories?
Well, we need to start telling our stories. Those of us who have the expertise and the skills, we need to start investing in that.
Okay.
And I think the media also plays a role in how people perceive women. Okay. I will give you one example. When I first came back to Liberia, I was working with a group of journalists under the IREX media program. And it was the 10th anniversary of peace, ending of the war.
So that was 10 years ago.
Yeah. And there were all these journalists who had gone to do a story about the women who pray at the fish market. And Kofi Woods was their guest speaker or something. Every newspaper that reported that story, it was Kofi said. There was not one interview with the women who were there. And I told them, forget about the women voices issue, but it's bad journalism. You have to balance things. You cannot go to a gathering of all women and you decide to only focus on what it was like, because the man was talking. We don't talk to the women. We don't even ask them, because some of the journalists will tell me, oh, women don't like to talk. I said, did you ever ask them? Have you ever been, the thing about the Senate or the House, if the women in the Senate and the House, if they don't raise their voice on the floor, they will never be quoted. They will never be quoted. And that has to change.
That has to
Our
change.
media have a lot of work to do because they leave women out of the conversation. And we need women voices, because if you had more women, that's why I think this show is a really good show, because you bring in women voices. But we need to mainstream women in our conversations.
Yeah.
We can't just wait for that special women's program. Then we're all over the place looking, which woman can I find to do this or do that? You just can't do that.
Elections are everybody's business. Everybody needs to choose our leaders, and everybody needs the chance to lead. Liberians agreed that for elections to be fair, our sisters and daughters must also be there. Everybody wants leaders who can bring peace and manage our nation. Let's think of women in the election and help make Mama Liberia better. Election is everybody's business. Let's include men and women. Let's think of women in the elections and help make Mama Liberia better. Elections are everybody's business. Let's include women. Together, we can create an enabling environment to improve women's political participation in Liberia. Election is everybody's business. How do you see that?
It is. One of the narratives we also need to change, because one of the problems that women face is that they don't do a good job selling themselves when they decide to enter the space.
Okay.
And I think we need to help, more of us need to help them to do that. They also face the challenge. And I'll go back to the Boto Kane situation. We raised $20,000 for Boto and Edith Gonglo when they were going to when the court case was going on during the senatorial election in 2020. And at that point, I said to people, if we could raise this money, and this was all grassroots, just reaching out to women.
We had a basket to
this was all grassroots. I reached out to friends in the diaspora. A lot of my friends, we all, people chipped in because they also believe in women leaders, and they also felt that this woman was violated, But we don't do enough of that. And I think at that time, I told people, I said, look, you don't wait until the next election before we start raising money for women's candidates. There were a lot of discussions around that. And I even told the women from the rural areas, I said, you don't think that you can raise money. You got your market. Can you decide as a group that we will pay 200 LD a month for women's political participation? When there's a woman in the race, that we all will carry our little, if we raise a woman, women in the race, we'll carry our little money and give it to them to support them. We have to do it. Elections is about money. Women need support. You can't have the woman.
So if we say election is everybody's business, then why are we not creating the enabling environment for everybody to be a part of this business?
I keep on going back to
why are we not? I don't know how to ask the question, but why
I keep going back to 51%. 51%. I'm going back to 51%. We are the majority of voters, and we need to start acting like we are in the majority. And the problem is we do not act like we're in the majority. And sometimes, there may be women who are undermining other women. We need to talk about that too.
But that's a part of society. Yeah, even men undermine men.
Yeah, but we need. But it's we have women who are used by other men to undermine other women, and we need to stop that. We cannot allow. I keep saying, stop letting these men enter our bedrooms to disrupt our process of keep increasing our numbers in leadership. We cannot do that. We have to stop that. We are the majority, and we have the power. We have the power to decide who the next president will be.
Because we are in the majority.
Yes, and that's what we need to look. It should be an issue-based election, not about popularity, not about who has been here since J.J. Roberts' time, but it's about who is the most qualified, who will transform this country.
And we could start that conversation around the legislature.
Oh, yeah, because I think everybody looks at the presidency. But my dear, I noticed that everybody got a right to run for whatever. Even if I wanted to, I got the right to run. But you got to look at the quality of candidates in the race, and that's why we need to work. And we said this during the Botokane time. But the problem is we have ideas, but we never follow through. We all said we're going to set up something to raise money for women's candidates, like they have in the U.S., like Emily's List. We started that conversation, it died down. We said we're going to start grooming and preparing women. We did not do a good job about that, preparing them in the district. Because, like, and you know what? The women candidates that you will see if we were doing our jobs, they would not be like you and me. Some of them may not have gone. I mean, the Botokana is a perfect example. We shouldn't be looking to see our classmates, people we went to school with. Because when you go to the rural area, and I keep telling Markebe from the rural women that she need to step up to run for representative in her district. We need to go to our rural communities because we got the women there. That we know that because she may not be your, Ivy League graduate, but
Say St. Teresa Convent.
her community, her community, they know her in that community. They're the people we're going to depend on to vote for her. So we need to start grooming it. And I'm so glad to see a lot of young women step up. I think the Bowie Foundation is doing a great job, training women. When I think about Vic June is having an event today, celebrating women leaders. I think that's everybody should go to that and support her in doing that.
So let me just hold you there and re-announce the lines. So you can call us on 0880-514-096 and join the conversation while we are with our caller. We'll take another skate.
Election is everybody's business. Everybody needs to choose our leaders, and everybody needs the chance to lead. Liberians agree for elections to be fair. Our sisters and daughters must also be there. Everybody wants leaders who can bring peace and manage our nation. Let's think of women in the election and help make Mama Liberia better. Election is everybody's business. Let's include men and women. Let's think of women in the election and help make Mama Liberia better. Election is everybody's business. Let's include women. This message is made possible with funding from the American people through USAID. The content do not necessarily reflect the views of Democracy International, USAID, or the US government.
Nyuanyunye emunyo wo mutu ade nyo mutu okomo nyo okrobepo na nyo mutu okomo konti waya nyipu nine dabiranyu iwo nyo mamuna enese jika kabone a de yunyina yiripo a yinu yiripo ye mutu ikomene nekri nyo mutu ojra krobepo ye mwadere mwaniti unamune tayi bro ajebo tutue ye mweja bapo yinu po ati awroti krenyo mamuna kri nemba mao dabirabo de sedekane nyuanyenye munyo wo mutu ade bapure nyinopo tayi numejiru bapo nyinopo ati awroti krenyombo mamuna kri nemba ma dabirabo be sedekane nyuanyenye munyo wo mutu ade nyinopo binene kri tipo sara meneka kwibrenyu imi posongwati uri epo awodiara itue ejiriri ye wabore mo a USA adibo nende we a wora amwe wabwe po mo a Democracy International USAID US government iposongwati.
Indeed, election is everybody's business. So it is part of your business to call us on 0880-514-096. 0880-514-096. And we're also going to give you an alternative line, 0777-517-4931. 0777-517-4931. And so these are the telephone lines. You can call us and join the conversation. So Maureen, we're still looking at the things women have done for this nation. The reason why we should see reason to have women in the spaces of leadership, especially elected position. Because if we elect a person, that means we trust that person. So if we believe in our mothers, our daughters, our wives, or our spouses, our grandmothers, We believe in them like that. Somebody, I had Siri on this show. She was like, if you can trust a woman to carry your child for 9 months,
True.
and you can trust her to go in the legislature. So I don't know what are the strategy we can do now.
I think first of all, I want to congratulate the women who do step up. We have 150
Yes,
women
they have
candidates
stepped up.
in the
Yeah.
race. And I know it's not easy running in this space, even with 51% of the electorate being women. It's not an easy thing. I think we should get to know them. Has the media been telling us who these 150 women candidates are? It's back to the media.
Okay.
ELBC, have you told Liberian people who the 150 women who are running for office? All these radio stations all day. If the women are paying to be on the programs, we would not hear from them. But it is the obligation of the press to inform the citizens. Are we telling the citizens who their candidates are? All the community radio stations that we have, how good of a job are they doing telling people who the candidates that are running for all these positions? And one of the things when you say how we change the narrative and how we get everyone involved in supporting women, we need to start changing the conversations in our homes. When we start saying that women will never be president of this country again, or women are not good leaders, what are you saying to your daughters? And I'm challenging the men in this society. You send your daughters to school every day. Are you sending her to school to be barefoot and pregnant and in the kitchen? I hope and pray that you're sending her to school that she will become a leader, not only in your home, but of this nation. That you truly believe that your daughter can be a representative, that she can be a senator, that she can become a president someday. I really hope that. So when you open your mouth and start denigrating women, think about your daughters. And this is what I always give it back to the men whenever they try to come up with one of those stereotypes about women, is that, well, I guess you must be talking to your daughter, or you must be talking to your wife, or you must be talking to your sister. And I
And
think,
they feel insulted when you give it back to them like that.
but we have to keep doing that. We have to be persistent. Look, I keep going back to 51%. We control the politics. We have the numbers to control the politics. We need to use that. And until we begin to use that 51% to get in the legislature, to get in the mansion, to get in public space, then we're in trouble. But we are the ones. Every time we open our mouth to talk about women in leadership, women in politics, remind people about the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't do anything good on this show tonight, anybody would honor the sound of my voice, I want you to go out and tell people that we rule. Liberian women rule. We will determine this election because we are 51%. And because we are 51%, I want every grandmother, mother, sister, daughter who is hearing me today to go out and start preaching that women are in the majority. We will determine the outcome of this election. We will ensure that it's peaceful because we know that we're also having problems in some areas. People have died, people have been injured. We're not celebrating our democracy in the way that we should. We're perpetuating violence against each other. That should not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because until we can remind, that's why I say history is very important.
And that's why we keep reminding Liberians that our history carried that we have women that have done well, and we have women that are still doing well. So the show you see, the women that we always pay tribute to are women that have passed, peace be to their ashes, and women that are still alive. So the first one we had Madam Sirleaf, and then we had Angie Brooks, we had Lema Bowie, we had today we having Yvette Jesse Rivera that is still alive and still contributing. So women have been in these spaces. Women have served in these spaces, and Liberians have trusted these women, even as school principals. There's a difference when you have a female school principal and a male school principal. Even class prefect. There's a difference between a female class prefect and a male class prefect. We bring all these dynamics to any process as women, and I think it's in our DNA as women to bring a kind of dynamics to the table. But
And, I
why
also think
even we as women still don't see it
I think one of the things
to stand up for
in
other
our
women?
schools, we need to start teaching some elements of women history, about Liberian women history, because we need to start celebrating Liberian women.
And that's where the documentation comes in. So
Yeah.
a lot of our history, a lot of it do not really squeeze women in. So that's where the documentation you mentioned comes in. So we need to really start to document the work women have done for this nation and how we continue. The thing is that we've not just done, we're still in the lead. Your opening statement, when there's a problem, they turn to the women. We even see in terms of crisis, those where the women are. The women come out, the women can't talk now,
And some of these women must remind themselves that there were people who ignored you for 6 years, and all of a sudden they're coming to you now because they want your vote. You need to ask yourself, and even not only the women, but even the voters, where was this person? Did this person provide a job for me, create opportunities for jobs for me? Did they do that? They didn't do that. So you need to start asking questions of people. When people come and ask you for your vote, when we all have gone to job interviews in our lives, and they want to know what we have done in the past. So I think we need to train our electorate to start conducting elections like a job interview.
Yes.
You are basically asking the voters to hire you for 6 years or 9 years. And before, we need to train them how to vote. We don't have to tell them who to vote for, but we can just ask some critical questions. Because when I engage young people on the street, when they come asking, oh my, give me this and give me that, and and I always ask them if they have a voting card and how they're going to vote. They say, oh my, who I should vote for? I said, no, I don't want you to vote for anybody, because I'm not for anybody anyway myself. I said, but you should ask yourself some critical questions. Look at my life. Is my life better today than it was 6 years ago? What would I like to have to improve my life? And when these people come and ask, they vote for me. So, madam, sir, why am I voting for you again?
So
be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Get in the driver's seat.
So we getting there slowly, just the two of us having a conversation. But I want to ask you, how do you see a legislature with more women? What do you look forward to?
Change.
Having a legislature with, the entire legislature with more women.
That's where the change.
Let me take this caller.
Okay.
Hello, your name and where you call from? Hello.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning.
Yes,
Mrs. Johnson, how are you?
I'm good.
Good to hear you in the studio. I'm Victoria Pabai.
Victoria Pabai, okay?
Yes.
Calling from?
Excellent. Yes.
You calling from where?
Yes, I'm visiting Monrovia. I'm calling from Bannersville Belt.
Okay.
I was listening to the radio, and I try to get into the first line, and it's off. It keeps saying off. Now I'll tell you how I want to get through this line.
Okay. Why your contribution?
And I just want to say thank you to the studio guests there, and it is a good thing why we continue to see people that keep talking to women that they need to leave from a lot of shares to come out because there are more potentials in them. Well, 51% of women in Liberia to vote is a huge number that they meant to be trouble. But then women have not come to know that they got so much potential, that we have so much potential. I think we need to change the mindset that it's the men's business. It's not the men's business, it's our business. Because let's look at it biblically. When God wanted to change this world, when he wanted to save the world, he came through woman, which was married. We see the lives of Rahab, we see Esther, we see Ruth. And then when we come down in Liberia, we see some prominent women that are making history. We see Mary Lawrence Brown. when we were young coming up there, down there in Yekepa, I always look at T. Muslim Cooper to be my role model. And she was one of those women that really impacted my life and sponsored me in school. And I'm so grateful, and peace be to her ashes. So let people see one woman like Rose Knuckles Booth. And let us just change the mindset. That women just change the mindset and learn to trust women too. Because the thing is, when you talk to your friend woman about the woman running, what she would do for me? Why? What do we do? What woman, our friend woman, we are the first that can take decisions to stop this. So let us learn to know that women can make the difference.
So I don't want to ask you, are you considering, because from your conversation, I know you're considering voting for women, but then why are you considering voting for women? As you know.
I feel that women, when you send a woman, she concentrates on her job more than those extra things that come along with her status. And I think because I'm a big man, I must have this. Sorry, man, I must have them on girlfriends. I must have this and other. Women come with integrity. They come with so many things that go there. I think I need to do this job because the fact that I was made in silence, God had a reason to make me to lead the people. So I think we should be thinking about voting for more women. Women out there, think about your friend woman. We shouldn't start fighting against one another.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Faith. That was a good contribution. And I like the fact that you talk about us thinking about, pushing women there, because there are a lot of permanent women. Thank you so much. So we still have a space to take at least one or two callers on 0880-514-096 or 077. Okay, somebody there. Hello?
How are you?
Your name and where you call from?
I am saying Sapla. I come from Galansville, although I'm a male.
Yeah, but we're taking everybody. Election is everybody's business. So whether you male or female, you can call.
Yes,
Say the name again.
Say Sapla.
Say Sapla. Say go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The program is so interesting. I honestly this way that women are responsible so much for building a nation. Simply, it begins from the home.
Okay.
Every man that is born today is come from out of a woman. There is no human being born that is coming from any elsewhere except out of two or woman.
So say, are you considering voting for women?
Come again?
Are you considering voting for women in these coming elections?
Women as president?
Just as president, senator, we got them in the seat for president. I mean the space for president, senator,
I will come that route. Give me a few breaks. I will come that route.
Yeah,
but
just need to go to that
point. I'm making, I want women themselves to stand up for the right.
They already stood up in a race. Are you considering to vote for them?
No, I'm not considering voting for them.
Okay. So why? Why not? Why you are not voting for any woman?
Because there's a gap for women leadership in kind of presidency for me.
So you shooting yourself in the legs, man. You keep by and say all the good things about women, and you talk all the good things, and you say there's a gap in women leadership. Say, please change your mind. We still got almost like 21 more days to go, and we hope and are looking forward to knowing that you've changed your mind. Say, because you already say all the good things, you can't say if there's a gap. No gap in that play, baby. Try and vote for one woman somewhere, or vote for all the women in your district, and the president, so wherever women are, stand up for them. Say, so the lines are still open. We got one more space: 0880-514-096, 0777-517-4931.
I think, Ciara, I just want to pick up on something that Victoria said, the previous caller.
Yeah, and you can just tie in with Seyon. Why you say there's still a gap?
Victoria said, women make better leaders, and statistics have proven that.
Yeah.
Every statistic on women's leadership, you see, it says we make better leaders, and we're less corrupt. And so I know you can trust that. I'm not saying everybody's perfect.
I know,
but I
was just about to add that.
The kind of rampant corruption that we've seen under male leadership, You can't compare anything to it. And I think I would like to speak to Sam. I wonder if he has daughters. What is he telling his daughters about women and women's leadership?
There is still a gap.
You know, because if we don't start changing the narrative in our homes, we will be in serious trouble. So we have to start in our homes, in our schools, in our community. Like, in some of the supermarkets, they call me the gender police. When I go there and I see the employees knocking women butt and saying, I call the manager, I say,
so this is part of your closing statement, right? So I'm catching up with small.
I know, but I also want to say that one of the things I used to tell my young nieces is that I always tell them to look in the mirror and always say, I'm beautifully and wonderfully made.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one
Even
of
the Bible
God's
says it.
greatest creation. So because if you start infusing positive language in the minds of young girls at a very early age, we can help to change the narrative. Take every young girl that you see. That's why I love mentoring young women. And take them under your wing. Tell them about their potential. No matter what gathering I'm in that I'm asked to speak or mentor or do anything, I always tell them about what they can do. I said to some group of young women, you can buy your own Mercedes Benz, right?
I'm proud of you, one of your mentors. One of your mentees, I mean.
I said, you can buy your own Mercedes Benz, right? I said, the fact that you came to this particular training means that you want to improve yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to depend on a man. And I'm not male bashing yet. I'm just saying that this perception that I cannot get ahead if I don't have a man supporting me. Mm-hmm. We have to change that narrative too, because that's how they enter into
our politics. Finally.
Well, I'm hoping that we have peaceful elections, because it's critical. Because from the signs that we are seeing, I'm worried about that. I think the women, like I said, our daughters, our mothers, our grandmothers should start talking more about peaceful elections. Talk to the young men that we encounter on the streets, the ones in our neighborhoods and in our communities, that everybody go out there and start talking about peaceful elections, because we know how far this nation has come. We have just celebrated 20 years of peace. We wanted to be peaceful. And I would encourage the electorate to get to know the female candidates that are in the race. Not only get to know them by name, but also get to know them by their expertise and what they will bring to the table.
Okay.
I would like to encourage our electorate to learn about the issues, focus on the issues, and forget about this 5 cups of rice and $5.
Thank you. Focus on the issues and forget
and
about
also women. 51%. You are 51% of this electorate. You can change the dynamics of this race.
Thank you, Maureen. Okay, colors, you heard.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, 51%. We can change the dynamics. We have done a lot. A lot of the colors acknowledge that we've done a lot. And I just want to reinforce this before I go to the outro, that elections are everybody's business. Elections are everybody's business. Everybody needs to choose our leaders, and everybody needs a chance to lead. Liberians agree that for elections to be fair, everybody, our sisters, our daughters, must also be a part. Everybody wants leaders who can bring peace and manage our nation. Let's think about women in these elections. Let's help make Mama Liberia a better place. Let us not run to the women when we have crisis. Let's think about them now and include them in the process. Well, listeners, this is how we come to the end of today's edition of the program, Elections for Mama Liberia, a 1-hour radio program that supports women's political participation and inclusion in elections. This program is produced by Democracy International's Elections and Democracy Activity with funding from USAID. Join me each week until the election time is over. Every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. on ELBC for more discussions on elections for Mama Liberia. And before I close, the next 2 Wednesdays will be very, very exciting. So the next Wednesday we'll have the UN country rep, and then we'll have the ECOWAS country rep, Madam Josephine Nkrumah. And then the last Wednesday, which will be the 4th, the Wednesday before election, we're going to be having the next chair, Madam TV Editor Lasana. She'll be here to talk about the election process and everything. So if you're listening, you try calling, you couldn't get through, and you're listening, just get yourself ready for the next 2 Wednesdays. It will be very, very exciting. We'll have the UN rep, and then we'll have the ECOWAS ambassador to Liberia, Madam Josephine Nkrumah, and it's one her name is a little hard, but we'll have the two of them here to discuss peace and how Liberians can move forward to the elections. This program is made possible by the generous support of the American people through USAID. The contents do not necessarily reflect the views of USAID or the TR and the US government. I have been your presenter, Seattle Scott Johnson, and I will bring you another edition of the program next Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on Elbc. As a reminder, again, tune in to ECOWAS Radio on Wednesdays, 5 p.m., OKFM on Friday, 8 a.m., and Prime FM on Thursdays, 9:30 a.m. The program will also be broadcast on the 30 community radio across the country. Get ready for next Wednesday and get ready for the